Hello, everyone, and welcome back to NRG Series in Indianapolis. I'm your host, Mason Jordan, my co-host, Devin O'Donnell, better known as Doomwake, and we are here for some more Pioneer action in round number 4. Pretty exciting. Devin, are you excited for this?
Absolutely. We have a really interesting matchup on our hands. Don Delozier, Boros Heroic against Jonathan Hobbs on Rakdos Midrange. A couple new cards in the Boros Heroic deck, and pretty interested to see how that one plays out.
Can't wait to see it. But before that, let's check our players to watch because this is our second to last weekend of the year when it comes to our series events. And we have a lot of players at large. So Benjamin Ungar at 3-0, our only one left. Sean Gallagher decided to drop. We talked about how, that's something that we won't expect much of our players to do. Must have been 0-3 and decided to value the sanity more than battling it out. It is 9 rounds of Magic today. Would have been pretty hard to break in past the top 64 there. However, Will Kowalski also at 3-0. At 2-1, we have Fletcher Johnson and Cliff Boyardee. Then our 1 and 2 players, Sarah Shearing and Chris Smith, both battling it out, though. Very much live for a top 16, maybe even a top 8 here today. It is 9 rounds, so it's going to be a long, gruesome day. But with that all being said, let's come back here to the booth real quick as we wait for the players to finish shuffling up and resolving mulligans. We mentioned Dawn Delusion is on Boros Heroic. That's a deck that she loves and someone who we've seen play these kind of tempo-y, aggressive strategies to very good success, has an NRG finals appearance versus Jonathan Hobbs and Rakdos Midrange, sort of the previous stock best deck in the format. Devin, which of these decks do you sort of like in the matchup and why?
Well, it all kind of depends on how many Liliana of the Veils are in the Rakdos midrange deck, because typically the Boros Heroic deck has a lot of protection spells. It's very good at, presenting a threat, backing it up with a bunch of protection stuff like God's Willing, and it's really hard for, the Fatal Pushes and Bonecrusher Giants of the world to be able to take those down. So, it's really going to be kind of a battle of, can the Rakdos midrange deck, kind of pick apart with Thoughtseize, maybe take a protection spell here and there, follow that up with a Fatal Push, and it's whether or not Liliana of the Veils.
That makes a lot of sense to me. It does look like the players are finishing up mulligans, finishing up shuffling here. So we can cut on down to that feature match and sort of see the hands they are keeping. We've seen Dawn do pretty well on other Magic events recently, in college at the moment, grinding, and so only has time to play a little bit, but doing very well every time she gets out to events, and this weekend is no different, starting off here at 3-0.
Absolutely. And a new card that maybe we may or may not get to see from Dawn here, 4 copies of Monstrous Rage. So I don't know if we can maybe get that one up on the screen, but that one is a very new potent card from Wilds of Eldraine. And kind of one thing that the really important part to remember about that card is its permanent trample. A lot of types of these kind of pump spells you've seen in the past give you, trample for that one turn, +2/+2 trample on the turn. But this one, you get the trample remaining, for the next turn, which means that if you, make a big creature, you get a big attack in that turn. It's going to be really hard to block in the following turn.
Yeah, and we do see a Thoughtseize here on turn 1 from Hobbs. Our opponent's hand is Defiant Strike, 10th District Legionnaire, Monastery Swiftspear, Reckless Rage, the monstrous roll card you just mentioned, and Virtuoso, along with only 1 land that is a pathway. A lot of different ways Hobbs can take this hand apart with Thoughtseize.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those typical hands that we'd like to say in the business as Thoughtseize proof. There's 3 creatures and 3 spells in a land. So it really kind of depends on the texture of Hobbs's hand, whether, my guess is if you're taking a spell, you probably lean towards Reckless Rage. And if you're taking a creature, you probably lean towards Virtuoso. I think those are probably the best spell and the best creature. So it kind of depends on, how Hobbs wants to play this game as to what we're going to take with this Thoughtseize.
Yeah, we do see Hobbs wrote down the hand, decided to go with Monastery Swiftspear. Probably just wanted to keep Dawn off plays for the first turn.
Yeah, that's reasonable because, Jonathan also knows that Dawn has a one-lander. So, if there's something like, John has a couple of removal spells and just wants to buy a little bit of time so that Dawn doesn't get any early pressure on the battlefield, that one does kind of make sense too.
We do see Mutavault into Reckoner Bankbuster here for Jonathan Hobbs. And then a passing of the turn back from Dawn draws, doesn't hit a land. Looks like we're just going to activate the Bankbuster for Hobbs, take the second to make our land drops as the Haunted Ridge comes down.
Yep, and see if Dawn finds a land here. Looks like we're taking somebody out of the sleeve, so I'm assuming that, what was that?
Sajiri Shelter as the land for Shajiri Step.
Yeah. So that's 2 white sources here for Dawn. We know about that Illuminator Virtuoso, so can deploy that, but ideally you would want to back that up with a mana and a God's Willing. But given that Dawn's been missing land drop, she doesn't really have that the kind of luxury. So it's almost like you have to just cast the Virtuoso and cross your fingers, which not likely to work out against Rakdos.
Especially with Sheoldred in play, connives every time we target it. It is going to be a very pricey card.
Yeah, this is going to be a really, really tough one for Dawn to get out of. We know about Defiant Strike. Reckless Rage deals 4 damage. Conveniently enough, Sheoldred has 5 Toughness Mason. That math does not add up very well for Dawn. We do see a 3rd land here, so can deploy the Virtuoso. Maybe has a protection spell.
Dawn is at 12. So...
But like you mentioned, just that connive, the connive is not a maze, so every time you target that, you will have to take damage from this shield.
Yeah, that means we're limited to 6 spells. Now, obviously, 6 is a lot. Probably more like 5 because of our draw step for the turn. But, if Hobbs even just attacks, it's like, well, what do you do, right? Like, you can chump block and have no pressure where you lose the number of spells you can cast, and you do need to be able to do 18.
Yeah, you might even be in a position for Dawn where if Jonathan attacks with the Sheoldred and you have a God's Willing, you might just have to say, okay, I have to block and protect from black and just not play around Fatal Push because you're so far behind. You can't really afford to play around much here.
Yeah, and we do see a Dreadbore, and that's just going to take it down the Virtuoso.
Yep, no protection spell even gone for. It's really hard to kind of even envision a scenario in which Dawn does come back in this game.
Yeah, we do see a Sheoldred attacking for 4, down to 8 for Dawn, then plays a Misery Shadow for Hobbs. And yeah, Dawn Delozier picks it up. Oof, rough game 1.
Absolutely, yeah. Dawn kept the one-lander. It looked like Dawn's one-lander looked pretty good, like had a lot of the pieces that she needed. Unfortunately for her, Jonathan was able to pick apart that hand pretty easily with the Thoughtseize, take the 1-drop, and Dawn was just not able to find that second
that's
land.
sometimes just the way these things go. When you're playing decks like that, sometimes you just need to have things come together a little bit. And Dawn could have played off 1 land for a couple turns and maybe would have been a very different game against a deck that's less interactive. But let's check out Dawn's sideboard and see what she has for games number 2 and 3. Now, Dawn is going to have a couple of cool cards in this matchup. We have 3 Showdown of the Scald, 2 Flowstone Infusion, 2 Lorien's Escape, 2 Rending Volley, 2 Rest in Peace, 1 Den of the Bugbear, 1 Justice Strike, 1 Giganta the Wellspring as the companion, and then Redain, the God of the Worthy. What do you like in this matchup?
I just want to mention, I love the fact that Dawn has a land in her sideboard. I know a lot of Magic players are very anti lands in the sideboard, but because you're bringing in 3, I'm assuming you're bringing in 3 copies of Showdown of the Scalds here, and you're increasing your curve by quite a bit. It really does make sense to have that additional land in the sideboard. So those make sense to me. Justice Strike is a good card at dealing with Sheoldred. Lorien's Escape, additional protection against Fatal Push. I think those are cards that Dawn's probably going to want access to.
That makes sense to me as we check out Jonathan Hobbs' sideboard to see what he might want to bring in this matchup up a game here. Hobbs has 3 Extinction Event, 2 Duress, 2 Reckoner Bankbuster, 2 Rending Volley, 2 Hidetsu Consumes All, 1 Unlicensed Hearse, 1 Damping Sphere, 1 Noxious Grasp, and 1 Go Blank. What do you like out of this one, Devin?
So I mentioned when we were talking about it before we went to the match, Liliana the Veil's one of the premier cards you could have. No copies of that in Jonathan's main deck. However, once we get to the sideboard, Extinction Event is an absolute house against this heroic deck. The heroic deck is really good at presenting a creature, growing it pretty large, and protecting it with stuff like God's Willing and Lorien's Escape. Extinction Event does not really care about those cards. So definitely going to bring in copies of those. Likely wants the Noxious Grasp and maybe the Rending Volleys, because even though it doesn't hit Monastery Swiftspear, it still hits the very important cards from Dawn's deck. The card that you are the most scared about the Boros heroic deck on tapping with is exactly Illuminator Virtuoso. So just having more removal spells against that. You could bring in Hidetsugu Consumes All, but it's really only good at answering Monastery Swiftspear. It doesn't kill the Legionnaire or the Virtuoso, so maybe doesn't want to go towards those, but definitely the events and likely the volleys and the Noxious Grasp.
Yeah, we're going to have to see exactly how Hobbs wants to play out here in game number 2 on the draw, but I'm inclined to agree with what you said there, as it does look like the players are starting their mulligan. So let's head on down to the feature match area and see what they're going to keep this time. So far, Dawn's hand looking pretty similar to game 1, although not as many threats this time. So we're just going to take the mulligan.
Yeah, and I think, overall, this is probably one of maybe, if not the worst matchup for Don's deck here. The Rakdos mid-range deck is very, very good at kind of picking apart early pieces. Like the heroic deck really wants to be able to have like certain cards line up in a certain way, like creature plus protection spell, things like that. And between Thoughtseize and cheap removal, it's really hard for the heroic deck to kind of get that type of draw. Now, in the post board games, if Dawn is able to get towards that Showdown of the Scalds, that is a very powerful card. But on a mulligan to 5, it's going to be really hard to find that.
Yeah, it's hard to have everything come together because you also can't underestimate the Rakdos midrange deck's ability to actually apply pressure to you. This deck, has a lot of creatures despite being a deck that generally has a ton of interaction as well. So it's not like you're playing as blue-white control where they have to get something like the Wandering Emperor or Teferi or a big Shark Typhoon to kill you. They can just go 2-drop, 3-drop, apply some pressure, cast some kill spells.
Absolutely. So looks like Don's going to start on 5 here. Got a land and a Swiss Spear. Love it. Tapped into the red zone. Doesn't even, no messing around with that Swiss Spear.
Taylor Swift Spear with the red album coming in for 1. Did you like that one? Did you like that?
No, I didn't. I laughed a little bit, but I don't know. I'm laughing on the inside.
I just don't think Taylor Swift's good enough respect, honestly. That's what I'm saying. As we do see a red side of the pathway, that is not normal. Kind of a big sign. Rending Volley's in hand.
Yeah, most likely wants to hold up Volley for a potential 2-drop like a Legionnaire or a Virtuoso. Got a Hoplite. We'll likely see this Volley. Yep, as you definitely called out, there's the Volley on the Hoplite. See what Jonathan's follow-up is.
Hive the Eye Tyrant into Stomp the Taylor Swift Spear, and it's out. And now Don Delozier with no threats. Once again on a 1-lander, this time on a mulligan to 5. It's going to have to pass the turn as Hobbs just draws, immediately slams the land, slams the Bonecrusher, passes back. Don does draw Sacred Foundry, so we're back in the game here with Illuminator Virtuoso.
Virtuoso cross the fingers. I mean, if for some reason, if Jonathan somehow does not have a removal spell in hand and we get to untap with this Virtuoso, then maybe we're cooking. I'm guessing that's likely not going to happen.
Another Stomp and Mutavault for the turn. That's going to help Jonathan apply more pressure to and close this game out, not give Dawn time she needs to recuperate. It looks like Dawn actually has to pass the turn back. Looks like that was her last threat in hand.
Yeah, this is looking a little rough here. Double spell, Bonecrusher plus Bloodtithe, and that is going to do it. Jonathan Hobbs taking a very, very quick 2-0 over Don Delozier.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Don there, game 1 sort of kept a little bit of a risky hand, got Thoughtseize. That's the way it is against these Rakdos mid-range decks. And then in game 2, add a mulligan to 5 in sort of a tough matchup. And such is the way of the world. Sometimes when you're playing your Pioneer tournaments, these things happen to you, Devin.
Yeah, Rakdos mid-range, will do that to you sometimes. You get Thoughtseize, play a threat, follow up with a Sheoldred, and, as we mentioned, this heroic deck is very powerful, but it's very leaning on specific cards, like specific interactions between creature plus protection spell, and when not only are you missing land drops, but when you combine that with breaking up the synergistic pieces with Thoughtseizes, it's really, really tough to combat this Rakdos deck.
Yeah, well, with that going on here, we are going to try and get our backup feature match for you. I know that we want to play those instead of getting some interviews because, we've been showing you not enough Magic, unfortunately, because we've been having so many Phoenix players. So I'm going to see if they can get that happening for us here because our backup feature match is pretty exciting. We have Derek Davis with Ignamic Fires. You might recognize that name because we had you 1 Pro Tour finalist and Worlds competitor last year. I figured, why not do it again? Derek top-aided Pro Tour Phyrexia Albi playing this exact style of deck, Ignamic Fires, and then played Worlds as well versus Javier Miguel with Mono Green Devotion.
Yeah, Derek Davis, very, very accomplished player. Loves to play this Enigmatic Fires deck, just all over the place. Been doing a ton of innovation on it, and can't wait to see exactly what this matchup looks like. Typically, the Green Devotion matchup for Enigmatic, in my experience, I have played a lot of this Enigmatic deck. I don't love the matchup from the Fire side of things. You definitely can steal games if you have those big turns with say double Enigmatic or maybe Enigmatic Binding for a 7-drop, but we'll have to see how it plays
so
out.
let's go down to that backup match and see what's happening there. because this is time shifted too. So we're going to be starting at the beginning of the match here. And excuse me, it is Miguel. I misread the pairing here. Derek Davis on your left. Does have a Yorion in the companion zone. That's that card at the top of the screen.
Just grab these deck lists here. I want to take a look and see. I was looking at Derek's deck earlier, and I didn't see any copies of Up the Beanstalk. Yeah, it looks like Derek opting to not play that card. I have seen some people, some enigmatic Fires decks adopt that card, but no copies here for Derek.
Yeah, it's weird where your deck doesn't have a ton of ways to trigger it, so it's kind of like a cantrip that you then turn into a 3-drop. But your deck kind of doesn't hate that, so it is interesting to see sort of the way that players are choosing to play. We see Nylier's presence here for Derek Davis, a enchant land that draws a card and turns your land to every basic land type. That means it can tap for any mana, but also turn on Leyline Binding, as we see it here doing exactly that.
Really, really good start here for Derek. I will say we get to play the Triumph game, Mason. What do we have in play here for Derek? Now you're just trolling me.
It's Forest Headquarters. Lol. I didn't even see the other one. That's the Mardu one. I believe its name is... Ooh, I actually don't know the Mardu one off the top of my head.
Putting you to the test.
Savai Triumph. Yeah, I didn't know Savai Triumph. I was thinking M. I was stuck on Mardu. I'm just off my game today.
All right. So what's that? 2 for me, 0 for Mason. Write that one down, chat. As we see Derek, go to his 4th turn, was able to kind of deploy the Nylie's presence and stunt the mana a little bit here for Miguel. But Miguel going to untap with access to 4, potentially 5 mana. Maybe can slam something down like a Cav, but we will have to see.
Yep. So do you see Oath of Nissa here? Taking a peek Skipoo at the top 3. Grabs a forest. Those are those space forests from the unset, right? They're kind of cool looking.
Yeah, love those forests.
I don't think I've ever seen that art before.
Love them.
Which is kind of wild.
Looks like Kiora untapping. Let's see what we're casting here.
Look, did we animate the lair?
What I missed? Oath of Nissa.
No, but we played.
Yeah, okay, second oath.
I guess this missed what was put in hand. I thought it was a lair for a little.
So Derek had a tapped 4th land last turn. Let's see if there is the Enigmatic Incarnation. So this is really, really powerful because you can sacrifice the Leyline Binding and go get a 7-mana creature. If I take a look at Derek's deck list, there are a couple of options. We have an Agent of Treachery, and I believe we also have an Atraxa Grand Unifier, so can access either of those here. My guess is you probably want to go towards Agent and take the land that has the actually we're gonna go for something different. We're gonna go for Knight of Autumn.
Okay, blowing up that Wolfwillow Haven. Yeah, Derek Davis has done really well with this deck. I guess is really prioritizing the Wolfwillow Haven with Kiora in play to prevent the opponent from having a huge burst of mana destroying cast something like maybe Storm the Festival.
Yeah, I was thinking about Sacrifice Binding, get Agent, steal the land with the Haven, but in that case, Miguel just get the Haven under the binding onto a different land, so you don't actually accomplish that much with that play. So it makes sense for Derek.
It does look like we have Karn coming down, minusing right away, grabbing Transmogrifying Wand.
Okay, Karn for Wand. Likely, Miguel probably recognizes that, as we talked about last turn, Derek's has the ability to sacrifice the Leyline Binding to go get something really large like an Atraxa, and likely just wants to, just in case the Karn dies this turn, wants to be able to have an answer to that Atraxa on the following turn.
We're going to see Knight of Autumn attack Karn down to 1, so now Karn can't go search for other things. So you see Cavalier Dawn coming down, blowing up the Kiora and giving Miguel a 3/3.
So I'm not sure how this works. If you sacrifice Binding, Miguel has to choose the target on the Wolfwillow before you finish resolving the Enigmatic. Is that correct?
Yes. I think sacrificing is part of the
thing
that puts the trigger on the stack. It's like part of the cost, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think that's how that works. Because if that's the case, then you could just steal with Agent whatever land that Haven goes on. That might be what's going through Derek's head.
So do you see Transmogrifying One blowing up the Cavalier of Dawn, turning it into an Ox, a little 2/4 action. Do you see the Karn tick up on? I think asking if you actually have to or not, but maybe he wants to turn the Transmog Wand into a creature for various reasons.
Yeah, I can't think of a. I guess there are certain cards that say destroy target non-creature permanents. So maybe if you animate the wand, you can kind of avoid those
Yeah,
types
that
of
might
cards.
be sort of what's going on. Might also be a kill my wand. I
So
don't really
Derek,
care moment.
yeah, Derek untapping with an enigmatic again, so gets to keep churning through that. Is able to just generate a ton of massive card advantage here. And we see Miguel. Typically, this matchup is bad because the green deck can kind of sort of get under you, put a lot of devotion into play early, and really just have it so where even if you start blowing up their permanents, they just get to a spot where they have Nykthos and Karn and just kind of combo off. But Derek doing a very, very good job at stunning Miguel's mana early and kind of parlaying that into this sort of mid game where you're just going to take over with Enigmatic.
Yep. We do see an attack here with the Ox and the Knight of Autumn taking down Karn. And it looks like... So Glasspool Mimic is copying the Transmogrifying Wand because it's a creature. Oh, no, sorry. It was Knight of Autumn. Sorry, it was Knight of Autumn copied and blow it up. My bad. Sorry. I saw
Okay,
the
never
point
mind.
towards it, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. Less cool, but still good.
Get punished for animating the wand. That would have been hilarious.
Did you see a Cavalier of Thorns?
See, Cav finding a forest. But I mean, look at Miguel's battlefield versus Derek's battlefield. Typically you get into these spots against green where it's like, oh well, I hope I have to give them one turn, or they have a bunch of devotion in play. But I mean, you're in this position now where Miguel just has nothing. Like even if he draws Nykthos, he has nothing to do with it. It seems kind of what they call in the business, Mason. Joker.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough spot to get out of here, because we are using Namek to sack the Chain to the Rocks and go and grab Glyph Weaver or Glyph Spinner. Destiny Spinner. Thank you. That's the name.
Spinning the Destiny. That one's just so we can go ahead and get some beatdowns, Mason.
Yeah, I mean, we might be really close to lethal on board here. As the Karn hits play, we might need to grab something like a Haywire Mite in order to buy you some time. We'll have to see how Miguel wants to play it. As it is Haywire Mite's the grab.
Yeah, Haywire Mite. So that can take care of, I guess, the Enigmatic Incarnation. There's just so many problematic permanents here on Derek's side of the battlefield. Can maybe, I don't know, block the Cavalier, blow up the Enigmatic, go to 14, take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, go to 4. Just really rough spot here for Miguel.
Can we turn the lands into creatures with the Destiny Spinner to maybe get the last points across?
That's a good point. Yeah, we should have, I think it's 4 mana to activate, so we should be able to activate 4, at least once.
Looks like Derek is just counting up, making sure he has lethal. Derek knows about the 2 extra life, 2 from the Haywire Mite, and the ability to chump block the Cavalier. So kind of like, 5 less damage is happening than the other 2s. You can kind of, move aside that Agent of Treachery, move aside that Cavalier. They're not counting. But you don't play Worlds and Top 8 of Pro Tour by missing stuff like this unless you have a very good reason to play around something. And Derek could be the one to know that.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that maybe Miguel could have is Beseiju, where you can Beseiju the land that's animated from the spinner, block the Cav, blow up the Enigmatic, and then same thing, take go to 14, take 10, go to 4.
Yeah. And looks like we're gonna do the math here, but yeah, just counting out exactly what it is. Yeah, you see setting aside the Destiny Spinner because that is 2 power, just making sure it's lethal. Oh,
doing a little bit of counting again.
Okay.
Yeah, because I believe the spinner is power and toughness equal to the number of enchantments. Right?
The land becomes that way, yes. So you could Haywire Mite before to weaken it, but then you don't block the Cavalier. And Derek Davis is going to win game number 1 there and move up 1. So we're going to have to see how Miguel wants to play this match post-board. Karn decks typically don't sideboard a ton, but sometimes you do see 1 or 2 cards come in. So it's going to be interesting to see sort of how that goes. And it is a time-shifted match, Devin, so we don't have to wait that long to find out. Here in just a second, we can hop on back down to the feature match area and have it happen.
Absolutely. I don't know if you want to take a look at the sideboards really quickly here. I think we do have a moment to pull those up. We'll start with Derek Davis. What is
Derek has
Derek
4
working
Rending
with?
Volley, 3 Mystical Disputes, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Temporary Lockdowns, an Alpine Moon, a Yawgmoth, which is the companion, Archon of Emeria, and then 1 Hanged Executioner. What do you like here?
Not a ton here. So Rending Volley, not good. Dispute, not good. Alpine Moon, probably something you want access to against Nykthos. Temporary Lockdown, I think, is something that Derek wants to go towards because you can hit the Elves and the Wolfwillow Havens. And then I think Archon of Emeria is another kind of slam dunk here, just preventing Miguel from going too crazy on those Nykthos
Makes
turns.
sense to me. We can take a look at Miguel's sideboard if we want. We're actually going to jump into this match live here in a second. So they are going on, and we'll give you the update when that happens here. But really quickly, Miguel's wish board and things we might see coming in are 1 Sky Song, 1 Cityscape Leveler, 1 The Mike the Wheatstone, 1 Asika Chariot, 1 Chain Veil, 1 Pestilent Cauldron, 1 Stone Brain, 1 Pithy Needle, 1 Tormund Script, 1 Shadow Spear, 1 Haywire Might, 1 Filigree Silex, 1 Heart of Kieran, 1 Transmogrifying Wand, and 1 Damping Sphere. Devin, if you're going to bring anything in and not just have it for the wish target, what's it going to be?
No changes.
Go to the feature match live.
Let's go.
We're going to catch you up to speed. We don't know exactly even what game it is, but we'll let you know once we get there.
Mason, there are people like Bobby Fortinelli that are, they know how to sideboard with mono green. I have not mastered that skill. Whenever I play green, I have never sideboarded a single time. So I'm not. That's
You've
not
never been like, dang, my opponent's an aggro deck. I'm going to cut a 6-drop and bring in a Seeker's Chariot or anything like that. That was on the house thing.
No, my brain just doesn't function like that. I see Karn and I see sideboard cards, but we're deep into this game, and see, this is kind of what I was talking about before. This is another reason why, or the main reason why I think I don't like the enigmatic side of things is there's just too much stuff on the battlefield, and it's really hard to kind of fight through all of that.
Yeah, and I think this is game number 2. This is from our overlay, and the green seems to be doing green things.
Green is green.
We have 2 Cavalier Thorns, a Pelucranos, 2 Lair of the Hydras, Llanowar Elf, and 2 Old Growth Trolls at the top of the screen with an Oath of Nissa hiding out as well. I think that's like an Old Growth Troll token. Oh, that might be an illusion token from Skyclave Apparition. Maybe it ate a Karn, then died and came back. And looks like,
well, that's great.
Derek Davis is going to pack him up here. This might also be a clock consideration because, obviously dead there. But we're going to the booth for game number 3 for a second as those players shuffle up, and a lot can happen. I wonder how much time left around. Maybe production can let us know because both these decks can go very long.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find that on Melee. It looks like there's still 66 matches outstanding, so I would have to imagine we're not too deep into the round because our feature match did last.
That's fair. I'm used to doing 2
so
matches and the time being low, but yeah, Dawn did get a little got there. So it looks like we have about 20 minutes left in the round, and those players do have a little bit of extra time in the feature match area because we have to set them up and they got to move across the tournament hall, so they get a couple extra minutes before their round time starts and 7-0 starts playing. But yeah, still plenty of time, so we're not going to probably see any turbo magic right away, which is great. Love to see games come to their natural conclusions.
Yeah, curious to see how this, it's kind of like, it seemed like both game 1 and game 2 were both similarly one-sided, where you saw Derek just kind of go off and stunt the mana development from Miguel in the game 1, was able to just never really let Miguel come back. We took a brief moment into that game 2, and just Miguel had 5,000 permanents in place. So we'll see.
Yeah, speaking of taking a brief moment, let's take a look at our last event of the calendar year, the NRG Series in Madison. That's going to be happening November 25th through the 26th. We have a modern 10K showdown on Saturday. Win that, go to our championship event at the end of the year. At the start of next year. That's going to be January 6th to the 7th for that. So you want to tune in to watch that live on stream. $25,000 on the line. And we have a Sunday Pioneer 5K trial as well. So you're going to do that. And, don't forget to check out the website to get all the new cards you need from NRG Series for these events. We're going to have Lost Caverns of Ixalan out by then. We don't have too many cards so far, but, Cavern of Souls in Pioneer might really shake things up.
Yeah, I'm a little excited for that one. Definitely going to play some human strategies, maybe even gives a little bit of a boost to spirits. Just any sort of typal decks that are playing a bunch of colors, specifically again the human stuff. There's just so many different humans that are, of across various colors: Mantis Rider,
Mhm.
General Kudro, double green cards. So being able to fix the mana for that is
Yeah, you
sounds
have
pretty
kind
appealing.
of those 12 rainbow lands to the typal deck, so that could be a big thing. As it does look like our players are mulliganing here, so let's go down the feature match area. As it looks like, oh, maybe a land was played already. Bam. Savai Triumph. Learned that one today.
Mm. Yeah, after
I,
I already told
I
you two
said I
matches
learned it
ago.
today. I wasn't claiming to know. As we do see Lair the Hydra as the land here for Miguel into Wolfwillow Haven on this basic forest on turn number 2.
All right, chat knows my struggles with this. We see a third land here for Derek. You know what card we haven't seen here from Derek yet is a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. We're tapping 3 mana. Hey, look
Ayo.
at that.
That is what Derek wants to see on turn 3.
I heard that card was good, Mason. What
It's
do you think
not
about
weak
it?
as my description of Fable the Mirror Breaker.
That sounds
We
accurate.
do
I
see
like that.
here the Connor Mullally token, I believe, for the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Connor was our player of the year last year. His team won one of our open events, and when you win one of our Showdown events, you get all that money. You also get a special Inkling custom token. So
Mason, look at this land, this one forest just doing God's work over here with 3 Wolfwillow Havens. That's pretty powerful with Kiora untapping your land that
yeah,
makes
that
4
one is
mana.
very good, and Miguel's going to be having a lot of mana. But if we can get Ignamic Fires and Leyline Binding, Leyline Binding, and then turn it into Ajar Treachery, Miguel will have no mana, and Derek Davis will have all the mana. So I'm praying. I'm praying to see some Wombo combos.
So that's going to be tough because we have Savai Triumph, so we would need to go attack with Fable token, get a treasure. We need a breeding pool, and then we'd have to go breeding pool untap. That would give us the 5 colors, 4 for enigmatic, 1 for binding. And with that stomping ground, I don't think we have 5 types to be able to play binding for 1 plus
Yeah, and you
enigmatic
see Derek
incarnation.
Davis counting his colors. I wonder if he actually had it rolled up. Yeah, you're seeing this. If I try him, sort of get him here. Obviously, could Leyline Binding something like Kiora? Looks to be attacking it instead.
Yeah, pulling up Derek's deck list, I want to see because sometimes these are on like these mana bases kind of vary a little bit. It looks like there's 3 breeding pools, so that's the one land that Derek would have needed that turn to set up that sequence. But Archon of Emeria is still a pretty good follow up. It's gonna, really stunt Miguel's development. If there's something like a Karn, it's nice against Karn because you can play the Karn, but then you can't play the spell that you're getting regardless of how much mana you have. So it gives you that 1 turn of reprieve against Karn.
And it might seem like that's not going to matter too much with so much mana and only 1 card in hand for Miguel, but this green deck is actually surprisingly good at chaining spells together. As we are going to see a Leyline Binding using the Treasure and the Triumph, so that way Kiora is gone. Maybe it was trying to, trick Miguel to block with the Llanowar Elf last turn on the Kiora as to, really get all the mana out of the way.
The next turn, Mason, Enigmatic Incarnation, sack binding, get Agent of Treachery, give me that forest.
Yeah, and that will be an incredibly strong play if Derek is lining up, and I think he is. Miguel is going to play Karn, the Great Creator, this turn while we have access to these Wolfwillow lands. It's going to minus immediately. Going to be interested to see what he grabs with this Karn.
Yeah, and like we said, Karn is pretty good, but he can't, no matter what he gets, he can't play a spell off of the Karn this turn due to that Archon of Emeria. So really, really good that Derek was able to, again, 80 cards, one of, by the way, but just find that one of Archon of Emeria, and it's, really, really good to be able to buy you that 1 turn that you need because if, again, I'm not 100% sure if Derek has the Enigmatic in hand, but in Derek's position, if you do, the game is pretty close to over when you steal that forest.
Yeah, that is going to be a big swing turn for you there. It looks like we grabbed something. I didn't quite get a view of the card, but Derek knows it, and that's what matters.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it was the wand to be able to kill the Archon, or I guess Sky Sovereign's better, but something to kill the Archon most likely.
It might be the Sky Sovereign. That would check out as kind of like, a fairy thing to do too. Especially with the Fable flipping, Archon's symmetrical. So Derek can only cast 1 spell too, which is, kind of nice for Miguel, as we do see Karn just actually get attacked down.
Yeah, but if that 1 spell is enigmatic, I think Derek's pretty okay with that.
And he's picking up a lot of mana. All right, it's only 2. We're just rearranging it. Now Leah's presence, draw a card.
That's not the one
Yeah.
spell you want. Not ideal. Although we can't pick up the bird, and then the bird can do a lot of stuff next turn. We can maybe reset Binding. We can reset the Fable to dig a little bit deeper, draw a card off the presence. So this Binding's still looking pretty good next turn.
Yeah, Binding doing some pretty cool stuff in this. I'm sorry, Binding plus Jordan does some pretty cool stuff. Yeah, you can
Yorion.
like flicker your bindings, which will then put like a planeswalker in play, like if that was a card, and you can attack it down really easily, and then have it binding something different. So that does seem to be Sky Sovereign console flagship from the Warhammer edition, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know what the card is, but we're tapping 5 mana. There's an artifact that it's triggering and targeting Archon, and Archon's dying. So I have to imagine it's Sky Sovereign, but I've never seen, again, I don't know these arts, Mason.
It's a boat in the sky.
It looks like a boat.
And it tastes like one too. But it's a breakfast cereal.
Have you eaten a Sky Sovereign before? Oh, we're doing boat sounds.
Comes down.
Polukranos,
kind of nice. You got a bunch of mana, turned into a 6/6 lifelink reach.
Welcome to twitch.tv/NRG Series, where we will be doing live boat sounds all day long.
Yeah, Jill said this is my favorite boat sound.
Yeah.
He'll be in the booth later today. As we do see Chandlerx.
You know what's really nice about Miguel killing the Archon is now we can just double spell.
I like double spelling.
Or perhaps even triple spelling. Derek landing up another 1 mana here. Yep, binding, take out the boat. Could play the Orion, I think. Do we have enough mana? No, I guess we're a little bit short.
Yeah.
Looks like an Alpine Moon on Nykthos. It's a good way to stunt the development of Miguel's mana.
Derek's like, I had all D's left over.
Yeah, kind of funny that Derek's hand was just 3 1-mana spells when he had the Archon last turn. It's like, just couldn't deploy any of these cards, but he's like, oh, well, you want to kill my Archon? Thanks.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, Miguel on so few cards, maybe doing something like answering the Fable the Mirror Breaker was the play to prevent stuff like Knight of Autumn 2 from coming down and blowing up some of these Wolf Blows, because you do need your lands, and that could have been a very real possibility.
Got an Oath of Nissa here for Miguel. We like to we try to ask and try to think to ourselves, what does Miguel need to come back into this game? Definitely probably starts with a Karn, not a Kiora. That's probably not what Miguel's looking for. Although with that Haven, or with the 3 Havens, that does generate quite a bit of mana.
Kiora, untapping it.
Is it Lair of the Hydra beatdown?
Lair is huge.
So there should be, I think, 1 mana floating, because the land tap for 4, we paid 3 for the Cure, then untap the lands. That would be 1, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can make it a 7/7 Hydra, which conveniently is not half of Derek's life total.
Nykthos, also, remember, if you're at home, isn't turn onable right now. It's been named by Alpine Moon.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Derek Davis wondering, maybe I should name Lair the Hydra.
So with leaving the elf back, I think this would be a 6/6 if I'm not mistaken. Yep. See Derek fall to 10.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here.
What is the follow-up? Starting with a Fable attack, making another treasure, just a boatload of mana. Some would say a Sky Sovereign load of mana. But tapping 5 mana, here is, I believe, the Yorions. That's going to do a lot of stuff here. I wonder if you're Derek, do you blink the Alpine Moon and then name the lair?
I mean, honestly, it would not be that bad of a play. Your opponent has so much mana already, and you're going to, flicker the Leyline Binding with Kiora. So the Kiora is going to be gone because of Legend Rule, and then you're going to hit it again. And, I mean, that's only like +2 mana on the Nykthos. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't quite get a confirmation if Derek, picked up the Alpine Moon and put it back in. It seemed like it just kind of stayed there. So my guess is it did not get blinked. But you're trying to think of like, if you're Derek, how do I lose this game? And I guess Nykthos, like if Miguel say draws like a Storm the Festival, parlays that into a bunch of stuff, maybe there's a way you can lose if you let him have Nykthos. So you can take your licks against the Lair of the Hydra for a couple turns.
Yeah, I guess we also have the Treasure plus Fable activation up now, so we can make a Shaman to block. So, not the end of the world.
we're sacrificing Woeful Haven. That's not where you want to be if you're Miguel.
That is a tough one. Losing a little mana, get a little 2/2, but you gotta do what you gotta do here, as this Enigmatic Fires deck is quickly turning the corner here and taking over this game.
Derek is approaching battlefield encroachment.
Yes. Honestly, Miguel's a little up in Derek's space here.
Yeah, that's true. I just realized that. Yeah, Miguel's up there for
Yeah,
sure.
I respect it. It's just like, this is my battlefield. Ooh, Leyline Binding gonna take the wolf for free.
Oh no, not the wolf.
Yeah, now we can flicker that Leyline Binding for free as well.
Getting some beatdowns. A lot of treasures.
Yeah. That was a reflection of Kiki-Jiki token that just tacked in. So that's what I got.
There's the enigmatic.
Yeah.
Enigmatic, sack the binding that had a token on it, likely get agent steal the land with 2 havens, and yeah, we're knocking Miguel down to what, 5 mana, so can't even top deck Storm. Looks like we're going after Troll here.
Yeah, I guess Derek's idea is just, you have to draw Storm in the festival, and if you don't, I'm just going to present lethal. Oh no, it is the land. Okay. Maybe Miguel thought it was going to be Old Growth Troll, and Derek was thinking. No, Fable the Mirrorbreaker copied at the end step.
Copy the agent.
Yes,
well,
I forgot.
Well, I just take it all. Why not? Sure.
Yeah, a little bit of verbal communication there from the players, but makes sense, and that's gonna make it very hard for Miguel to win, as Cavalier of Thorns is able to come down. But next turn, we're gonna make another agent. We're gonna steal, another thing. It's not like we get it back.
Something tells me that the Cavalier of Thorns is probably not enough, Mason.
Yeah, the Agent of Treachery you every turn for the rest of the game is not a particularly weak line of play, I would describe it as.
It's not bad, especially when you get to the position where you get to Agent of Treachery, you get multiple agents in play, and you get to draw 6, then it feels pretty good.
Yeah, draw 6, get all these things. Honestly, decking becomes your biggest worry of losing at that point. So good stuff there from Derek Davis. We are going to do a winner's interview with him in just a minute. We're going to give him a chance to pack up all of those foily cards he has and get on over there. But Devin, we're about 1/3 of the way through our tournament today. Sort of, what is the most exciting deck you've seen so far that has you kind of wanting to go and play on stream?
Definitely the Acerac deck. It was a bit of a unfortunate performance for that player in round number 2, but I really like a lot of what that deck is doing. I've been working on some Soul Cauldron stuff in Pioneer. Haven't quite cracked the code on it, so might have to give that one a shot. And of course, Phoenix, just so I can play 12 cantrips. Only when you're watching my stream, though.
Oh, of course. Great. Well, I'll just have my stream up, your stream up all the time. That way you always have to play Phoenix. Everyone will be really happy. It'll be a win-win-win. Yeah, no, I think I really like that deck. It was super cool. I really like Derek Davis's deck. I always think that deck is like pretty close to just being like the best deck in Pioneer, but it always feels like it's a little bit off. And I don't know. We have to talk to Derek because he has just been playing that deck now for about a year straight and through various iterations and tuning. I think just has a really solid understanding of Pioneer, because with that deck, you have so many tutor spots and so many one-ofs. You can't really do well with it unless you really understand what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah, there's just so many different permutations. Like I said, we've seen a lot of players playing up the beanstalk in that deck. Looks like Derek is opting to not play that. And then there's also just a ton of flexibility with your one-ofs. Like you see players sometimes move certain one-ofs in the main. Like it looks like Derek has a Tranquil Frill back. Sometimes you see that in the sideboard. And just like there's so much flexibility with how you're tutoring, because you're looking through your deck so often for all these different one-ofs.
I'd be kind of curious to talk to Derek about that. He should be in the booth in just 1 second. We'll cut to him as soon as we get him. But yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what's going on there. But yeah, overall, this has been a really interesting Pioneer tournament. In the past, Evan, we've done a lot of these Pioneer tournaments together. It's a ton of Mono Green, a ton of Rakdos. Every now and again, we get those days where it's just all Lotus Field. And, we've had a lot of Phoenix in the feature match area. Just sort of, we were picking some players to watch. They queued into Phoenix back to back to back. But honestly, pretty diverse field looking at it on the back end of Melee here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm looking at this small metagame breakdown here. It looks like Phoenix and Rakdos appear to be relatively similar in terms of popularity, a little bit of green devotion. So it's not like where you see a tournament where it's 25 to 30% green and then everything else is 10 or less. But yeah, it looks like we have Derek ready. So let's go ahead and head over to the interview.
Congratulations, Derek, on being 4-0. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Happy to happy to keep the ball rolling.
Nice. So you've been playing this deck a bunch. We talked about you got the Pro Tour top 8. Congratulations once again for that earlier at this year. You've been playing this deck kind of all the time. You know, in Modern, you kind of play the Elementals deck for a long time, all the time. What kind of brought you towards this deck and sort of has you keep coming back over and over again in the Pioneer metagame?
I think it just comes down to it just does not have a remotely close matchup against Rakdos while still being pretty good against all the other stuff. I think that with Rakdos just being the top deck, it's always going to be in the back of my mind and just always a nice little failsafe. It actually wasn't going well for me like in the Moto queues when I've been playing it the last couple weeks, and then just last minute decided I'm going to play it anyways. So it's been working out.
Nice. So, you know, with all the different one-ofs and stuff, you got any new additions recently to your deck? You know, Beanstalk's a card we've seen some people play. You chose not to. Maybe what was the decision going on to not play Beanstalk?
I think that was part of the reason why I was losing, to be honest, was I was just trying to focus too much on just like jamming a bunch of Beanstalks into this deck. And it really doesn't have that many cards that actually trigger it. And the thing that this deck does well is it churns. And the cards that churn also have other utility. So I like Bitter Union and Nylea's Presence. Nylea's Presence is great with Leyline Binding, fixes your mana for things like Temporary Lockdown that would typically be harder to cast, Cavalier of Dawn. But like Bitter Union, being able to immediately flip a Reflection and then immediately activate because you could sacrifice Bitter Union and get that value that way. I think that's generally really, really strong, and you just have so many dead draws with so many one-ofs that are sometimes good, sometimes bad, that like Bitter Union effectively draws 2 cards often.
Makes sense to me.
Awesome. Yeah, there's one card in particular here that I see in your deck list. Well, actually, we'll go over 2 that I don't see in a ton of these enigmatic decks, but the 2 cards that I want to mention here are Destiny Spinner and Tranquil Frillback. Now, they might, you know, they're innocuous one-ofs, but you have a lot of access to them with enigmatic incarnation. What made you decide to play both of those cards?
Destiny Spinner just kind of fits a role of it's a 2-mana enchantment creature, so you can turn your Chain to the Rocks that hit a Goblin Shaman into a 2-mana enchantment to get a 3-mana enchantment or 3-mana creature the following turn. That's generally the role. It makes your control matchup a little better. It's not good for you, but it helps. Frillback is really nice right now with Phoenix being as popular, and then it has text against mono green where exiling their yard's really nice. The utility of gaining life or destroying something comes up a decent amount, and honestly, just like the fact that it's a 3/3 body rather than getting Knight of Autumn and being a 2/1 is relevant often. I think it's also just good that it's another way to use your mana when you have a Fires in play.
Makes sense. Yeah. We have Fires in play. Sometimes it can be a little awkward. You know, we've seen Yorion do a lot of work there, but that makes a lot of sense. So, Derek, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us this round about your deck. We can't wait to see more of you in our future match area over the course of this weekend. Good luck. And, you know, only 5 more rounds to go, buddy.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us this round, round number 4. Devin and I are going to take a quick little break, and we'll be back with more Magic the Gathering action in just a second. So sit back, relax, grab a water, and we'll be right back.